Hi, hello, I'm Stuart Lord Evans from Cielo Energy. Thank you for joining us to look at our PPA curriculum. Now, if I go back in time to when I first joined the electricity market in the late 1990s, PPAs were something that were used very infrequently. I think I did my first PPA in 1997 when they were used by a very small number of people who lived in corners of energy markets and didn't really get involved in the wider traded market because it was such a niche product. And it's very strange and exciting to see how it's changed over the past 30 odd years or so. Whereas now PPAs are one of the key instruments that's being used to drive the decarbonisation of electricity and the changing methods that are being used for transferring risks. Whereas PPAs used to exist purely between a generator and generally a large supplier with a portfolio of customers, they're both big, serious parties that understood the electricity market. Often now they're being used by companies that, while they may be large consumers or large investors, haven't really got involved in the energy markets very much before. So that's where these courses come in, is try and build that understanding and get people to the point of really understanding PPAs and how they work. Obviously, corporate PPAs, virtual PPAs, private wire PPAs, many different kinds of PPAs exist as ways of doing what is ostensibly a very simple activity of transferring electricity generation to a off-taker of some part. Somebody generates, somebody pays for it. Very simple in theory, can be very complex in practice, and needs to be done properly to make sure that at the end of your PPA contract, you're as happy as you were at the start of it. The opportunity stroke risk to things to not quite go as you wanted to is quite large. So it's important to just understand what you're doing, take some time to think about it and just work through it. And that's where these courses come in. Now, our starting point for the courses is our executive summary course, as we've called it. It's a short course that takes people just into understanding how it is that the PPA markets work and getting people into it in a 30-minute, quite short, information-packed way of very quickly getting up to speed and understanding the PPA market. Within this course, we look at what is a PPA, starting from that perspective. How does it work? Who does what? Why do they do it? And who uses PPAs? And what's the motivation for using them? What's the benefit of using a PPA? Clearly, everybody gets into the contract because they want some benefit from that, be that risk transfer, be it profit, be it green credentials. There are different ways and different means for getting into the market. We also get into, from the green perspective, just exploring the green certificates. Because most PPAs are around renewable assets, it's important to understand for both the investor, generator, off-taker, how those green certificates are used, where the value sits, and how you make sure that you're getting what you want at the end of it. And then we look at different types of PPA, different structures. There are obviously lots of people come at the market from a different perspective. You may want to buy a PPA from a large supplier. You may be wanting to sell a PPA to a large consumer. And then you've got this electricity network that gets in the way and make things complicated. So we just look at different structures for PPAs to explain how they may work. And then if you're looking to get more involved in actually implementing a PPA and you want to get more into the depths of things, we have our essential implementation course. At the end of this course, you'd be really confident to put a PPA in place and know the key things you need to think about. So we start within our essential implementation course of setting a context around which PPAs operate. So looking at the electricity market from 30,000 feet, just say, how is it structured? Why is it structured the way it is? Because that really drives the way PPAs work and the context and environment within which they work. It's driven by that understanding of the market that allows you to think about what are you trying to achieve and how can you achieve it in the context of the market, because these things don't exist in a vacuum. They are part of a wider electricity market ecosystem. So we just get through to explaining that a little bit. Then we look at types of PPA in a bit more depth. What kind of PPAs are there? How do they work? And then get into PPAs in the real world. It's really simple to write a PPA contract, as I said, but more difficult to make it work. So we get into looking at things like volume risks, price risks. How do they actually emerge? How can you deal with them? What do you need to think about? And also get into the subsidies that surround some of the renewable assets and some of the PPAs and how they may work in concert together to get the result that people want. And again, more on green certificates and how they work, because the value stack for a renewable asset is very much electricity plus other elements. And for the cost perspective, it's making sure that you're understanding that as well to get the right things. And then we look at how do you value a PPA? Depending how long term your contract is, there may be a very short price for a PPA. There may be much longer PPAs if you're going for life of asset. The way you value them is very different. The way they behave is very different. And again, the risk profile is very different. So it's important to think upfront, just how do you want to price your PPA? What kind of world are you getting into? If you want to get into a very complex pricing model, we can do that separately. It's not contained in the course. The course is about understanding how you can value things more than anything else. And then finally, within the essential implementation, we get into a how do you make it work in practice? It's okay saying you want a PPA, but if you're looking at a particularly long-term type PPA, you've got to get into who does what within the contract. How do you make it work? What are the key elements of the contract? Who pays who? When do you pay? Who does the invoicing? All of these kind of complex things that actually are key to making success of a contract. And at the end of these contracts, you should be at the end of these courses, not contracts, you should be in a position to really understand PPAs and do what it is you want to do and be clear what it is you're trying to achieve. Now, included within the cost of all of our courses is a 30-minute consultation with one of our senior experts who will just make sure that you've understood everything. So any questions you have from different elements of the course, we can run through that with you. We can also get into what it is you're trying to achieve so that you leave it really understanding where do you take PPAs in future. And if you need extra support, we're more than happy to talk to you about that and engage with you on that, including helping you put PPAs into practice and actually use them in anger. So if you need any support, please get in touch. Any further questions, please email us at info@cieloenergy.co.uk. We look forward to working with you. This is an online course, but we are very much real people and looking forward to engaging with you. And good luck for wherever you go to with PPAs in the future.
Thank you.